Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
Analytics company vidIQ has certified the Queer News Tonight YouTube channel as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached more than 12 million views.
We are so proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in our rainbow family. There is no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Tuesday, April 28th. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we will tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show. Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model as PBS and NPR, but created for the LGBTQ community.
Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community. We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2026, our magazine is celebrating 41 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 14,000 LGBTQ television stories. We present South Florida's major events, including Pride Fort Lauderdale, Stonewall Pride, and Pride Fete. Our magazine events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ and broader community.
In 2026, more than 100 community leaders will sit at this table and share their voices as our anchors. Together, we host this show to support the LGBTQ community. Let's meet this evening's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ publications and websites. Welcome to the show, Gregg.
Thank you for that warm welcome, and may I extend a happy National Great Poetry Reading Day to one and all. And I'd like to read a short poem by gay poet Dan Vera from his new chapbook, Celestial Fire, Songs for a Love That Dares, available at beothuckbooks.com. The poem is called Because Love Remains Dear. Because love remains dear, let sorrow be sorrow, let rage be rage, let all truths inhabit their places. Be here at the coldest hour. Let hope be hope. Let us remember we are the children of those who suffered before us. Terror is in our bloodlines, and so is resistance. Here in the garden we planted, the earth is now shaking as something breaks forth. Happy National Poetry Month as well. April's National Poetry Month, and it's almost over.
Oh, lovely.
That was very nice. That was very touching. Kind of like a metaphysical moment, and I felt the tingles, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Happy to hear it. Thank you.
Let's welcome anchor Brian Bender. Brian is a true South Florida local. He's an educator, community leader, and a strong voice in education, history, and public policy. He teaches in Broward County Public Schools, holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in education, and a postgraduate degree in leadership, and serves on the Fort Lauderdale Education Advisory Board. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you so much. I don't know how I got here. I'm not even gay. Why am I at this queer show? Like, what is this? Like, I thought this was like some other kind of show. Yeah. Anyway, hey girl, hey. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about all the queer news we can handle for tonight. So let's do it.
Let's do it.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Bishop Durrell Watkins, the senior minister at Sunshine Cathedral, one of the most important LGBTQ churches in the world. He is an auxiliary bishop of the Global Justice Institute and the current president of the Divine Science Federation. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, Durrell.
I am so glad to be here. I almost sang in my best Barbara Streisand, but no, I am glad to be here, and I want you to know about something coming up. In the distant future, pretty distant future, October the 3rd, the church is going to be celebrating 55 years, Sunshine Cathedral, and Robert and I, my husband and I, will have been here for 20 of that.
Mazel tov.
Right? Wow. So that celebration is coming up in October, so you'll hear more about it. It'll be popping up. But way sooner than that, there's something coming up at the end of May, and that is the Stonewall Museum is honoring 12 different people and places in the community, organizations and individuals in the community, and Sunshine Cathedral is one of them. So we're very honored, we're very, very excited, very happy to be among those dozen honorees. The day is the 30th. It's from 5 to 8 in the evening. I believe you can get information and tickets at stonewall-museum.org. Of course, there's a graphic there, and you get tickets and information at that address, and I sure would love to see you there.
Congratulations.
Thank you
very much. Congratulations.
I'm Durrell Watkins, and let's queer up the USA View. Trump and Melania demand Jimmy Kimmel be fired. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump on Monday called for ABC to fire late-night host Jimmy Kimmel, alleging he incited violence through a recent comedy segment. In the segment aired last Thursday on Jimmy Kimmel Live, he imagined delivering a monologue at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Kimmel joked, quote, "Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow," end quote. And let me pause to laugh. That's really funny. The remark appeared to reference speculation about the president's health. Kimmel also joked about Jeffrey Epstein and made additional remarks targeting the president. On Saturday, during the White House Correspondents' Dinner, authorities arrested a gunman and charged him with attempted assassination. However, officials said he did not fire any shots and never entered the main ballroom where the president was seated. Posting on social media, Melania Trump wrote, quote, "His monologue about my family isn't comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America," she said with a straight face. "People like Kimmel shouldn't have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening to spread hate." A coward, Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect him. Enough is enough. It's time for ABC to take a stand, end quote. The president also criticized the comedian, saying, quote, "Wow, Jimmy Kimmel, who is in no way funny, made a statement on his show that is really shocking. A day later, a lunatic tried entering the ballroom of the White House Correspondents' Dinner loaded up with a shotgun, handgun, and many knives," end quote. Kimmel has not publicly responded, but please allow Bishop Durrell Watkins to do so. These people are immune to irony. These people have it is so funny to me that the person who literally incited a violent riot on January 6th, the person who literally made fun of a disabled journalist, the person who has called everyone he didn't like a nasty woman or someone of low IQ,
blood coming out of her,
coming out of her eyes or coming out of wherever, exactly, the most vile, horrible, disrespectful, question President Obama's right to even be a citizen.
Secret Muslim, not born in this country.
Just all of these terrible things, shithole countries, and
eating the dogs and cats.
Pocahontas, and yes, all of this madness and foolishness and confusion. But Jimmy Kimmel isn't nice to them. Screw you. Who cares? You're not nice to anybody, and shouldn't be allowed in a country with guaranteed free speech. Shouldn't be allowed to say things. P.S. There's free speech. P.P.S. It's comedy. and lots of P's and all the S's. Who the fuck are you? I just can't stand it.
No, you're right. Well, I'm sure that the only violence that the expectant widow will witness is whatever the orange malignancy perpetrates on himself with what he is stuffing into his face on a regular basis. And since we're making demands, I demand that the Slovenian slag and STI cesspool be detained and deported.
Wow.
Well, just to add a little nuance to this, not that I'm not thoroughly enjoying this underneath my mask of not laughing. I really do want to laugh because you're quite funny. They're using this as an opportunity to, like, a wish list for everything that they want to do. So I think I heard something that Trump now wants to use this as an opportunity to say that this is why he needs his ballroom, because this wouldn't have happened. So that's number one. The other one is... I don't even know. You know what? I was going to go through a litany of the things, but it's just all gobbledygook at this point, because they're using this as an opportunity, at like a cudgel, in order to enact whatever it is that they want. They want to be able to say, look at us, look at me. Melania has her Be Best campaign to combat anti-bullying. I guess I'm getting my groove with
I don't really care, do you?
I don't really care. Do you remember when she wore that, you know, to the kids that were in detention?
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't care to you.
But they never
Laugh
mean what
at.
they seem to mean.
No.
Like, I look like, I put up this meme of me as Jesus, but I thought it was me as Marcus Welby.
And-
Are you kidding me?
And I heal a lot of people, and a lot of people are a lot better because
I'm dropping bombs on them without
Yeah.
congressional approval.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What is annoying though is that they act like any of us will take this seriously.
Well, some people do, you know, like some people, I don't know who they are.
people.
Who are you? And I don't think anybody that takes it seriously is watching us.
Right.
But maybe they are for Oppo research. I don't know.
Well, hopefully ABC won't go down
Right.
the same drain
Maybe
as
we-
CBS.
Maybe we won't get a Truth Social message demanding that Hatnia
We all
fires
said-
us.
That's
We're
right, they're out of
should be
here.
off the air. Okay.
right, we're outta
well,
here.
Sorry, bye.
No, it would be hysterical. I mean, I'm laughing. It would be very funny if it wasn't so very tragic.
Depressing.
Yeah, depressing that these people will honestly incite riots and honestly drop bombs, but you are not allowed to even think ill of them in any way. It's really bothersome. But the amusing part to me was and this person was caught. He didn't fire anything, but he was caught with like a bazooka and a cannon and a nuclear bomb and blah blah and a penknife. I mean, it was like so funny to me. There's like all of
And
this
a squirt
armament.
gun. He had like that list. It was like, you know why? Because
a
the
flaying knife.
Yeah, because he was given that stuff to pretend like he was going to do the assassination. Here's the props.
Right.
You
Well,
guys go ahead.
you know, a lot of conspiracy theory, and I always say a lot of conspiracy theorists, and then I say this, not all conspiracies are always wrong, but I do want to say that if this was truly an act of attempted assassination, of course, you know, it's not a funny, laughing matter. But if it was a conspiracy, this is it's just too perfect in order to, you know, in order for them to enact whatever it
His
is they want
ballroom.
to.
Well, we remember when he got shot in the ear, wore a maxi pad for 3 days, and then suddenly had a scarless ear.
Right.
And so, like,
Raised his ear.
so no matter how many times, and this happens, we're never gonna. And sure enough, not a fire shot, and he had all this armament and some knives, and it was just like they don't even act like they want us to take it seriously.
No.
I can't get into their minds. I can barely understand my own mind half the time. So
Their minds are Swiss cheese.
Swiss cheese is right. Yeah.
I'm Gregg Shapiro, and let's queer up the worldview. Botswana repeals anti-sodomy law, marking major LGBTQ plus legal milestone. Section 164 of the Southern African Nations Penal Code criminalized same-sex relations, carrying a possible 7-year prison sentence. In 2019, Botswana's High Court struck down the law as unconstitutional. Writing for the court, Judge Michael Laburu stated, quote, "Human dignity is harmed when minority groups are marginalized. Sexual orientation is not a fashion statement. It is an important attribute of one's personality. Personal autonomy on matters of sexual preference and choice must therefore be respected. Any criminalization of love or finding fulfillment in love dilutes compassion and tolerance," end quote. Although the government appealed, the ruling was upheld in 2021. rendering the law unenforceable. Now, Attorney General Dick Bayford has formally amended the Penal Code. The remaining portion of Section 164 now applies only to bestiality. In Botswana, LGBTQ plus individuals can serve in the military, are protected from job discrimination, and transgender people can update their legal gender markers. Currently, a same-sex couple is challenging the government for marriage equality rights. Botswana seems to be taking gradual steps toward inclusivity and LGBTQ plus freedom. Well, let's hope that other African nations honor what Judge Michael Laburu said, and I'm going to say it again, it's important to listen to this, quote, "Human dignity is harmed when minority groups are marginalized. Sexual orientation is not a fashion statement," and I am proof. "It is an important attribute of one's personality. Personal autonomy on matters of sexual preference and choice must therefore be respected. Any criminalization of love or finding fulfillment in love dilutes compassion and tolerance," end quote. Brilliantly said.
Exactly.
And I love that this is happening on the continent of Africa because, you have so many Christian fundamental, I don't like to litmus test people's, Christian faith, but you have very hardline, Christian organizations like the Heritage Foundation, Focus on the Family, James Dobson, whatever. You have them all going into Africa and pouring millions and millions of dollars into outreach to Uganda, to Kenya, to these other African nations, and they take a very hardline stance against homosexuality and queer people. So the fact that Botswana and Mr. Justice Laburu, came to this decision, it says a lot because it could have gone in a very different direction. Right. So now that we have a man of God at the table here with Bishop Durrell, I just want to say, do you think that was like a miracle, or like what's your take on that?
It was certainly fortunate. It needs to spread. The Global Justice Institute actually does quite a bit of work all over the world, including Africa. And so the governments are what they are, but we are also in contact with smaller communities, tribal leaders that still try to maintain their history and identity. And we were told over and over, all of this homo hatred was imported. All of this comes from Europe. This is not our ancient history. This is part of colonialism. And the evangelical church's primary export is hatred, and a lot of it has been given to African nations. So I'm glad when they sort of pushed back. The Republic of South Africa has protections in their constitution for LGBTQ plus people, and it's I think they were the first country in Africa to have marriage equality, and so there's a lot of hope. But when we see where all of sort of the cruelty and the dangerous stuff is, those are European and American exports that we've just dropped off there, and now people are hurt because of it.
People there are suffering, absolutely, yes.
Now, can I ask you, just because, you have a religious perspective on this, when you say that they're exporting hate, I don't doubt that they are, and that's what it is. Do you think that they see that as exporting hate? Like, what is the currency? Like, what are they getting out of that instead of spreading God's love, God's message, whatever their interpretation of the Bible is, but they really focus on policy decisions, like they're very focused on very personal issues. And I kind of wonder if they feel that the West, Europe, the United States has gone so decadent and I use that in quotes, that they actually want like another, they want like another colony that has laws in place that if they ever wanted to go live there, that they don't have to live with homos.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not a sociologist.
Okay.
But that doesn't keep me from opinions. But no, I think that on their end, on the countries in there, I think a lot of their resistance to new information, although a lot of this information is already 100 years old, but is because when they were colonized, they bought what the West was selling.
Okay.
And now the West is telling them they're backwards for believing what they sold them, and they need to change. And I think there's just some resistance, like, no, we're not falling for this again. The reason we believe this is because you told us to 100, 150 years ago.
Right.
Now you're telling us that we're backwards and wrong for believing what you told us to believe. Get out. We're not changing our mind for you ever again.
I hope there's more resistance.
Yeah, so I hope that's part of the reason why they are so homophobic, and so is that also once you have an enemy that you can profit from, and that's the bad guy, that's the devil, well, you're loath to give that up because you get a lot of political action out of that.
So queer people are the stand-in for everything that's wrong in their view of everything. So.
And then the Americans who are exporting all this silliness, and maybe I'm way harsh on this, I don't give them that much benefit. Like the people on that end, I can sort of see why, but the people, I have a very cynical view of them. I think they know what they're doing. I think they know it's hateful.
That was my question.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, Emerson said, be careful what you're worshiping, because what you're worshiping, you're becoming. And I think these people, so-called Christians, Western American, that they have so worshipped violence and hatred so long, you'll never be better than your God. So they are exporting hatred because that is their religion. I'm going to say something super controversial, and maybe even more so because I'm a staple Jewish people. But in a lot of Christianity, now this is not every school of thought, and this is not the original school of thought, but I would say probably in most schools of thought in Christianity for the last 1,700 years, Christianity has been a worshiper of violence. If the only way I can be in relationship with God is because the best person who ever lived to be tortured to death, and that has to have happened, and I have to believe it for it to work, I am worshiping torture, I'm worshiping cruelty, I'm worshiping death, I'm worshiping violence. I cannot possibly worship violence and be an agent of peace. I cannot worship cruelty and torture and be a person who exudes love. So Christians who say Jesus is love and Jesus is peace and the Prince of Peace, and they have this dichotomy. And so they're saying this, and they even want to believe it, but then the proof is in the pudding, which is this. And so I think Christians have so painted themselves into a corner that they want to be loving and kind, but they worship violence.
It's a death cult.
And then the right wing of that makes no apology for it. They don't struggle with the weirdness of it, and they are just pushing hate in the name of God who loves you so much that if you don't do it my way, it just happens my way, it's God's way, then you will suffer and burn in hell. But it has become a cult of hate and violence and fear. Which is why a lot of us at Sunshine Cathedral don't even call ourselves Christians. We say we're trying to follow Jesus' example. Jesus the Jew, by the way. And so we're trying to walk that path, and Christians have diverted that dramatically.
Well, the thing you were saying, there's a Joni Mitchell song from 40 years ago called Tax Free, where she talks about this crazy preacher and who's preaching love like hate, she says, and he's calling for large donations, and the idea is that how can he speak for the Prince of Peace when he's hawk-right militant? Joni said that 40 years ago, and she predicted this. She was right.
It's just, I don't think there's anything more to add to this other than thank you very much for your explanation. And I love that you're very reasoned about it, and you draw on a lot of, you talk about historical examples, you go back 1,700 years, I could barely remember yesterday. So thank you so much for that. Thank
you. And the good news is, though, that like Botswana, and it just takes one for there then to be two. So there is a rainbow behind these dark clouds.
Yeah, I believe that. I'm Brian Bender, and let's queer up trans rights. Hospitals are still silent on resuming trans youth care even after court blocks federal threats. Many hospitals that cut off youth from gender-affirming care under Trump administration pressure are not confirming whether services will resume even after a federal court cleared the way. Last December, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., serving under Donald Trump, directed hospitals nationwide to halt gender-affirming care for minors or risk losing federal funding, including Medicaid. On April 18th, a federal judge in Oregon struck down the directive, ruling it exceeded federal authority and conflicted with existing law. Still, several hospitals preemptively discontinued care for trans youth, and many have yet to signal a return. The advocate contacted multiple health systems, including University of Michigan Health, Fenway Health, NYU Langone, and Children's National Hospital about their plans in response to the ruling. Most have not publicly committed to restoring services. The court decision confirms hospitals cannot lose federal funding for providing care, but it does not require them to restart the programs. Some states like New York may have laws mandating hospitals to provide access to gender-affirming care, but many do not. It's what creates a chilling effect. You have a judge that says, don't worry, I'll be the referee in this one. You can go ahead, do what you need to do. But, these hospitals are, what is that? Once shy,
Once bitten, twice shy. For
twice
sure.
shy,
They're afraid.
They're afraid to do it because, the next time this goes in front of, whoever it goes in front of, it might get reversed. And then, the Trump administration will have cover to pull their funding or, so. Yeah. I feel like nothing is really going to change until we have a new, and we're going to say our prayers tonight, hoping that we do get a new administration, when we have elections in a few years, and hopefully some sanity returns and we get we're not walking on a clear path right now. What we're walking on is, a whack-a-mole of hate. So they hire these people to go through, DEI stuff and anything that sounds like, gender affirming or gay affirming.
We're using AI to do also, to see if a name pops up, a word pops up.
Right.
Like they're not even doing the work themselves.
A blanket ban. Yeah. So I
and the
feel
wrong
like
people are suffering for it.
Yes.
Nobody knows where the hammer is going to come down next. So when you have a judge that says, don't worry, I got your back. It's like, do you really have my back? So I can understand these hospitals' conundrum, and I feel terrible for the youth that are going to suffer because they're not going to be able to get the access that they are needing.
Just another example of the devastation to which this administration insists on subjecting our community. They are just going at it full on.
Right. And gender affirming care is medical care, and medical professionals. JFK Jr. is not such a person. No. And medical professionals should be the ones who decide what that looks like, what the protocol should be, what's age appropriate for what procedure. These are not political decisions to be made. These are medical decisions to be made. These should be medical decisions made by medical professionals for the medical welfare of the people involved. And so my heart goes out to trans people. They're being dehumanized and demoralized and demonized and denigrated by their own government as queer people have, and BIPOC people have, and women have, and immigrants have, but they are the ones that's super okay to hate right now, and they're paying a horrible price for it. Yeah. If everything in the world, if our government and all the churches and all the synagogues and all the temples did everything they could to make their lives easier, they would still have some difficulties to navigate.
Of course.
But then in addition of that, they have to fight their own government for survival.
Yes.
It is unconscionable.
Yeah.
Our hearts go out to them, really.
100%.
Pray and also vote. Vote.
Senator Warnock says that your vote is a type of prayer for the kind of country you want to live in.
Right.
I'm Bishop Durrell Watkins, and let's queer up faith. Baylor University hosts LGBTQ faith event as Turning Point USA closes doors. At Baylor University, which is a Texas-based Christian university, an LGBTQ plus faith event opened its doors while Turning Point USA held a closed-door gathering nearby. Students and community members gathered for All Our Neighbors, an event organized by a coalition of student groups to spotlight LGBTQ plus affirming Christian voices. The program featured speakers including Kelly Robinson of the Human Rights Campaign and Reverend Paul Brandeis Rauschenbusch of the Interfaith Alliance. Side note, his grandfather was one of the famous original leaders of the social gospel movement. Robinson said, this, quote, "This moment exists because people spoke up, because students organized, because the community decided that if harmful ideas were going to have a platform, then truth would have one too," end quote. Turning Point USA's event, part of a national tour, was closed to the press, including student journalists. In contrast, All Our Neighbors welcomed the public and drew roughly 350 attendees, nearly filling the venue. The event sparks a discussion about LGBTQ plus inclusion in faith and education. I love that while Texas and Florida and Tennessee and Arkansas and Oklahoma just hammered down on diversity and inclusion and equity, there are grassroots efforts just to make it happen anyway. And this is not insignificant. Baylor is historically a Baptist university, and there are progressive Baptists, but they're fewer than the other Baptists, and they're relatively new in comparison to the other Baptists. So Baylor is this Baptist institution in Texas. And so that this Baptist university in Texas is where this liberative movement is happening is actually very encouraging, very optimistic, very hopeful. And so I'm glad to hear about it.
Well, and it's young people too. It's that movement that the young people start. But why am I not surprised that Turning Point USSR, I mean USA, sorry, I got them confused,
exactly.
that they would be turning people away while...
Yeah, we're doing a thing in secret, but you wouldn't know you were doing it, but we're doing it in secret.
KGB.
Really?
Well, an event called All Our Neighbors. All Our Neighbors. We are all neighbors. It's amazing.
Right?
That's welcoming
Hard to find fault
folks.
with it,
Open
but they
doors.
managed.
Opening doors, yes.
I don't want to get fired from my job, so I'm just going to keep my comments to myself and just say, God bless all our neighbors. So
Yes.
that's what I want to say. I'm Brian Bender, and let's queer up politics. 4 accuse out Utah Democrat Eva Lopez Chavez of sexual assault amid her congressional run. 4 women have accused Salt Lake City Council member Eva Lopez Chavez of sexual assault as she runs for Congress in Utah's newly drawn 1st Congressional District. Whew. The accusers, who are colleagues from her political career, shared their accounts with Salt Lake Tribune, which confirmed portions of their stories. Lopez Chavez has denied all allegations, saying she is shocked by the allegations and is ready to go through a polygraph test if requested. Among the accusers is Council member Victoria Petro, who alleges that at a 2022 wedding, Lopez Chavez grabbed her throat, pushed her against a pillar, and said, quote, "The only reason I still fuck men is because a woman hasn't shown me what I really want," end quote. Petro says she reported the incident to Council Chair Alejandro Puy, who has confirmed that Petro told him at the time. State Senator Jen Plum alleges Lopez Chavez pushed her against a wall and grabbed her buttocks, asking, quote, "You're sure you're straight?" end quote. State Representative Huang Nguyen says Lopez Chavez climbed on top of her car, demanding a kiss. Ooh. Campaign worker Maggie Regier also alleges unwanted physical contact at a 2019 event. Lopez Chavez's lawyer, Gregg Shapiro, has denied all allegations. Lopez Chavez has called for a fair and independent investigation while continuing her campaign. Utah's primary election is scheduled for June 23rd. Wow, girl. Wow. You are one horny lady.
Right.
If this is true, allegedly.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to claim that I'm nonpartisan, so it is very disappointing when I see that it's a Democrat.
Yeah.
But, you look at places like California and Eric Swalwell, you know, I mean,
true.
and he was so good looking. I mean, so I don't think good looking people should be having these scandals. But anyway, but he was actually also dating like a Chinese spy at one time. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
But anyway, my ADHD.
Not a boring life he leads.
Not a boring life. So I just want to say, girl, you are horny and you need to get a girlfriend, get into a polycule, as the kids call it in Portland. Something, like I get that you want to have sex. I get it. We all do. But that's not the way to go about
it. Or is she just
it.
intimidating? And,
Is that what it is? I don't know, because I'm not one of those kind of people. Somebody called me vanilla the other day, and I was being as rough as I possibly could.
Part of me makes me wonder if these were things like at events, if maybe there might have been alcohol. I can't believe I'm saying
But I
this.
think alcohol brings out who you
I know,
really
but
are
I'm
anyway.
worried that if that's the case,
She needs
that
treatment.
she should go into treatment and that this
There's
can
that.
be fixed.
But we're also at least trying to be conditioned, and I think it's a good thing. I think we ought to be conditioned to do this to at first, at least consider the victim. Of
course.
Yeah.
Now, also, there's also the presumption of innocence. So there's a thing to balance. But so she's not guilty until a jury for a peer says she is. But in the meantime, you also can't dismiss
No,
when people say I've been hurt or bothered or whatever. So it's a complicated thing. But yeah, if it turns out that she's done it, it's just not okay to assault anyone ever.
And I do hope that a fair and independent investigation can take place, and that the issue is resolved one way or the other.
Yeah, and if she's falsely accused, I hope she gets justice. I hope she gets to sue or whatever. Yeah.
And it would be one thing if it was like, Republican operatives coming out against her, but these are actually former staffers. Right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I feel that there's a different dynamic when it's people on your team that are making those allegations. I'm saying all allegedly. We don't know that she really did any of this. Right. But all I'm saying is sorry for the victims, and I'm sorry about whatever it is that she's dealing with. Mm-hmm. I was going to make a little joke, but I'm just going to say I'm sorry with what she's dealing with, and sounds like a very frustrated lady. And let's, after you get your legal issues settled, get yourself a vibrator. Have a good night.
There's the joke.
Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Yeah. These are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. Our anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ family.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Don't forget to join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform. Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is going to grow, and we hope it does, and then thrive, which we know it will, we must be able to tell our stories and bring them to the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That's the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out, Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Durrell Watkins, and I thank you for joining us on behalf of my fellow LGBTQ anchors here at Queer News Tonight, Gregg Shapiro and Brian Bender. We'll see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ world, we wish you a good night.